lasers online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
I am the Shadow, the secret stealth master who has come to steal your soul at night. A master of stealth and maneuver in my darkened mech, stealthily sneaking across the field. I come, will leave undetected as I came. A master of guile and cleverness, I sneaked around the enemy base. Behold an enemy mech, unaware of my presence, and it shall be struck down, for it is I, the evil, vengeful mech, who has struck you down in the night. Now I proceed to the base, unaware that I have snuck around behind them. Now they are pressed. Will they turn to fight me, or will they go back? Oh, look, an Atlas. Gee, I'm in a 55-ton Shadowhawk against a 100-ton Atlas. I wonder how this is going to end. Well, let's see. Just what I'll say, I'll leave my stamp collection to my wife and my button collection to my niece and wait a minute. My 55-ton mech outgunned an Atlas? Beat it in a toe-to-toe match? How is this possible? What's going on? What actually killed me was his friend over there. What's going on? Are Atlases, like, malfunctioning? Are they broken? Let's take another look at Atlases and just see what's going on. Granted, I was going for a headshot. I'll fully admit that. I was trying to take down the head, get rid of this mech as quickly as possible. However, he did not die from a headshot. I dug through his center torso, taking out his engine. That's what killed him. So I actually dug through his armor, which he had about double my armor, in less time than he could kill me. So, does that mean the Shadowhawk is that overpowered? Or the Atlas is that underpowered? I mean, I'm pretty proud of my Shadowhawk there. I mean, it was a Shadowhawk 5M with 2 large lasers, 2 machine guns, and 2 Streak 2s. But is that an overpowering arsenal? To understand the situation, you have to understand a few things about the Atlas. First, not counting the hero mechs and unique variants and the premiums and all this other stuff, the 4 common variants that anyone can buy, but through game money, grinding away, there are 4. Without mentioning them all and going down a complete breakdown of every one of them, they vary from 6 to 8 hard points to mount weapons on. The one with only 6 is the Atlas K, and that does have 2 point defense anti-missile systems. So that one is a little bit different. One of them has the option of having a point defense anti-missile system, like you wanted to call it a point defense. It's technically the anti-missile system, or the having a Guardian ECM on it, or both if you wanted to do that. Another one, most of them just have one point defense system on it with a variety of arsenal and different types. One has 3 missile, one has 2 ballistic, and all. Well, actually, it's a well. All right. How you mount them on there is entirely up to you. The thing to keep in mind when you're modifying an Atlas is the fact that it is an Atlas. You have 100 tons to work with. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be fast. Don't try to mount the biggest engine you can fit in it, because you will have a very poor mech. I would not recommend going under 300 rating engine. Some people say you want to stick with a standard engine, not put in an XL, because if you lose your left or right torsos, which are quite easy to hit on an Atlas, I, for the most part, stick with the standard engines. The problem is I still tend to die from the center torso being torn out, so the left and right torso aren't as vulnerable and big of a problem as you might think. But thing with the arsenal is you have 100 tons to work with. When all is said and done, mounting all your armor and engines and everything else in there, heat sinks, you're going to have a high probability of having weight left over. You have to put the biggest weapon you can in every hard point, since you're limited in only mounting so many weapons in those hard points. And if certain styles of weapons don't appeal to you or work well for you and you don't put them on there, you're going to hurt yourself even more. So does this mean the other player had a very poorly configured atlas? Well, maybe, but I don't want to put too much blame off on him, because there's yet more to the story. I certainly got first shot on him and kept my fire going on his center torso. Don't know what his arsenal was, don't know what it comprised of, don't know what his armor rating was. It's possible he had a lot of problems in the past games, people getting around him, so he decided I'll show him, I'll put a bunch of armor in the back so he didn't have as much to sport in front. I one time did encounter a mech that literally had even amounts of armor in front and back. I was kind of scratching my head on that one. It definitely was a tough mech to take down in certain regards, but not something you would really expect, and I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend more tactical play over fixing the problem with armor. But with atlases, you need to remember it's an atlas, you can mount these big weapons in there, and really the problem becomes not so much the weapon as a balance between space and heat. Most of my atlases run actually a little underweight, simply because I can't fit enough heat sinks or I can't fit enough weapons. One of them I configured for long-range dueling, in which case I mounted 2 AC5s in it with some other long-range arsenal to really make it punch good. Another one is more for general operations, some long, some short. It only had 1 ballistic, so I put 1 AC-10 in there, 2 large lasers, and everything else is for short in close fighting. So when you're in toe-to-toe, I can use my entire arsenal, and when you're at long range, I only use the 2 large lasers and the AC-10. And then third one, only having 1 ballistic, it is a close-in brawler with AC-20, 2 medium lasers, 2 large lasers, and a bunch of streak SRM-2s. Running an atlas, you very much have to keep an eye on what the team is doing, because you're not fast, you're not going to be fast. If you go below 300 rating engine, your speed is going to drop below 48 kilometers an hour, and that's going to be too slow for you to do much of anything other than guard the start position. And if the team isn't there to help you, you will die horribly. So you're kind of forced to keep with the rest of the team, kind of left hoping that people will support you. And a lot of the times, players are stupid when they're around you. I didn't save the video, but one of them, the entire team started following me off like a big conga line. I wasn't going where everyone else wanted me to go, so they then left me and went off another direction, promptly got themselves wiped out because they did something stupid. And so I'm left alone, so I just kind of found a corner, sat there. The opposing team eventually found me. Killed me quickly, 12 on 1, wasn't very long, doesn't matter how thick your armor is. And in the chat, the other members of my team promptly blamed me for the defeat. Great job of leaving your team out in the hanging, this and that, and just basically blaming me, saying I let the team down. And I'm here like, I'm a brawling mech. My longest range weapon would not have, and they all went off in the long range area and got bombed to death by the other team. And I'm here like, the only thing I could do over there would be die. And just like them, players are not brilliant a lot of the times. So, you kind of have to struggle with the way players are, because players are players. I mean, They're interested in their own game. They're really not focused on team. When you're running a mech that requires team, you have to kind of wing it. With an Atlas, especially if it's new and you have no skill upgrades, you're not used to it, it feels like you're driving a barge. You're thinking, surely the Titanic was more maneuverable than this. This makes you specifically more vulnerable when an enemy gets in close, especially if you have no support. If you see them coming, you can kind of anticipate a little bit more, face them, anticipate your turning speed and reaction speed of your mech and get on target better. But if you're caught blindsided, you're very much in trouble. For the most part, players do not understand how to support you, how to help you. They just assume, oh, you're an Atlas, you'll win the day. You're the big old mighty power. And it's very frustrating. You're forced to either try to stay in with the herd and just keep going, or you're left alone to get isolated and cut down. I recommend trying to put an engine in it with increments of 25 in the engine rating, because for every 25 points of engine rating you can hide one heatsink. So you can do a 300 and hide 12, a 325 engine rating and hide 13, things like that. The thing is, you can only have so big of an engine, and it's going to be very small changes to your maneuverability, simply because the mech is so heavy. If you go up by 25 on the engine rating, it's like a 1 or 2 kilometer difference in speed. It's not a big boost, so it's more savings in space for placing heat sinks than it is a actual boost to your mech's performance. Okay, enough belly aching about how things in game don't go quite as planned and other players are silly. You can see me maneuvering around in this monstrosity of a mech, how very sluggish it is. This is Forest Colony. Ironically, because it's Forest Colony, I'm not really going to do anything that I normally do with my Atlas, because everyone else does almost always the exact same thing. Don't know why, but they all run over to the water side and take part in this long-range duel. Well, I shouldn't say all, but vast majority of players. I have been in games where the entire team, I'm the only one not doing it. They all run over there, and it makes no sense to me. Long-range duels like that, perhaps because I'm not an LRM player, I'm not really a missile player, it's snowing inside the magic cave. It does this from time to time. I've also had my point defense systems activate when missiles were flying over the cave. I'm not quite sure if they were effective or not. I've often wondered. Alright, this is my Atlas DC. And you can see here I'm running into a little scout mech. Jenner. This mech is armed with 2 large pulse lasers, 2 AC-5s. I almost said Ultra, but they're just regular AC-5s. I designed this mech a little more for general operations. I find the 2 AC-5s to be quite effective. Gives you good power, rate of fire, and range. And the fact that I couldn't fit 2 AC-10s or 2 AC-20s, because both are ballistic slots are in the same torso. At any rate, out of all my Atlases, I found the DC to be the most effective. I've struggled so much trying to get the Atlas K to be an effective good mech, and the RS just seems to flounder. I cannot get that thing to do anything. Perhaps because I'm more of a light player, so that may factor into some of it. The other thing I find interesting with this mech is the fact that it just changes the way everyone responds in the battle, both friendly and opponent. Everyone treats it differently. Oh, there's an Atlas. You will draw fire like crazy. I have had matches where I literally died inside 30 seconds. Just such a massive barrage of missiles, weapon fire, everything on the Atlas. Even though I was far from the most dangerous mech on the match. With the opening, I illustrated that the Shadowhawk can be far more effective. And I find that amusing. Friendly mechs, everyone reacts like, oh, you're the Atlas, you'll win the day, I'll just sit by you and hide behind you and this great armor and... No. But you can see here, most of the opposing team went over on waterside. Me and this rest of these infiltrators here just marching through this line. You can tell by when I react how slowly the mech turns. I mean, they got the mechanics of what a 100-ton mech would be quite well, because it is just really sluggish. Forces you to anticipate and plan ahead as to where you can go, what you can do. As my 100-ton mech stealthily sneaks through the flank. There's basically no cover protection on this flank. Normally what I do with my Atlas is I try to go to a flank, avoiding the main crowd in the middle. Everyone kind of moves up in this herd. I try to flank out a little bit, so I'm still close enough for them to respond if needed. If I need help, and I can respond to them if they need help. But I'm not in the herd. You see here how easy it is to outmaneuver an Atlas. I'm just barely able to keep pace with him. But because of my heavy weapons, all I need to do is touch him just a little bit, and it hurts a whole lot. There was his error. He stopped moving. Bad light mech. You should have kept moving. At any rate, then it's a little bit of a long-range duel with this mech over here. He lost a leg, and very quickly loses a torso. And that's pretty much the end of the game. There's another light mech over here. They're going to duel with a little bit. And he goes down. And
The enemy base is being captured.
the key thing I wanted to show you is with the arsenal, this mech actually inflicted over 400 damage, which for the amount of time it was in combat was very brief. This is my Atlas K. It runs a 325 rated engine, which gives it just a little bit more speed. It gets to go a screaming 52 point something or other kph, so it's marginal speed increase and maneuverability, but you will be able to see a little bit of that. Mostly I put the engine in because I needed to be able to hide another heatsink. The weapons configuration of this one at the time I shot this video, which I'm always juggling around these configurations, it has one AC-20, 4 medium lasers, and I put on an LRM to see if I could give it a little bit of a versatility with some long-range capability. I found it to be marginally successful. I found I really needed to make it focused for close-in fighting, so I did away with the LRM and went to medium pulses and a few other things to try to soup up its close-in fighting. It also has 2-point defense, which is one of the reasons I got this particular mech. I really, really wanted to make this mech work. I wanted to make this mech awesome, powerful, effective. 2 anti-missile systems. It should be great, right? I've struggled with it. It's marginal performance at best. Part of it is holding back my Atlas performance in general is just the fact that I am more of a maneuvering player. I do far better with lights and mediums. That said, some of the best battles I've ever had in my Cicadia did 600 damage, and it's pretty hard to get up that high, but it can be done. It takes some skill and cooperation from the other team. 300 to 400 is pretty normal. This mech, I have had, well, Atlases in general, I have had battles where I did 800 damage and more. You can do some really massive damage with these big guns. What I'm basically doing is went over to the side here. I'm setting up an ambush. Since there was no one else here, there are some friendlies in the middle. I'm basically setting up an ambush so that they come in, veer over towards the middle. I can get them in the back. If they try to go for the cave, I can get them in the back, because there's a little indention here on the side of the cliff. I can hide. Unless they're paying attention, I should be able to really clean their clock. This mech, I've really found it far more effective setting it up for brawling with the AC-20 medium lasers and other short-range arsenal. With Atlases, I've found, mechs in general, you want to find a niche and set them for that. Use them in that role. They work far better. It doesn't mean you just want to have nothing but short range. It doesn't mean you want to have nothing. Here's a guy getting it in the back. You can hear that AC-20 go. It has a nice deep thundering roar. Took several shots before I even realized I was here. He's coming back for me. See his armor and torso is just all tore up. AC-20 does quick work, I'll say that. This one's about to die. Configuration I found for this mech that's even more devastating is actually 2 large pulsed lasers, the AC-20, then 2 medium pulse lasers. But your problem is heat. It's a big juggling act with space and heat. Weight is not your concern. It's whether or not you can fit it in there. I have actually run Atlases with standard heat sinks just because I could fit so many more heat sinks. But if you try to put the big guns in there, it just reaches a point where you just don't have the space and weight for it. So you're forced to go double heat sinks. Here's another Atlas coming at me. I'm already a little beat up. He seems to be pretty fresh. I just keep going for that center torso. And it doesn't take long. The center torso just goes out. And some other mechs are coming in. They're zeroing in on my position. I don't have much armor left. And there I go. Valiant effort. Over 400 damage. Not a bad configuration for a mech. Quasi-performance, really. If I had some help, a medium or two, like a hunchback, something with me, I would have done much better, really, just for the support fire. If there was a player in the mouth of the cave coming out to help and then falling back into the cave for cover if needed. Anytime mechs work together, you're going to see a big improvement. But it's a game. My final thoughts and views on Atlases. Well, there's pros and cons. Pro. They are a very powerful mech, thick armor, very intimidating when you see them on the battlefield. They can do a lot of damage in a very short amount of time and sway the battle one way or the other if properly used. Con. You draw fire like crazy. People act like you're supposed to carry the team and don't support you. The other teams just focus fire on you to take you down as quickly as possible, and you're treated like you're the most terrifying thing on the battlefield, whether you really deserve it or not. In the end, Atlases are fun to run. I will say I probably have as much if not more fun running an Atlas, even in a poor match where things don't go well, than I do running one of my any of my other mechs. Part of that might be the novelty of having the Atlases, and they're new, so I don't quite have the they still have the shiny newness appeal, I guess. Whereas the other mechs that I've been running for months kind of are passe and I'm sort of wouldn't say boring, but just not as appealing. That might be part of it. You have to remember with Atlases that when you're trying to run one, that you're not maneuverable, and you have to kind of anticipate what direction you'll need to be facing when the situation arises. That's certainly not easy. There's really not a lot left that I can think to say and talk about the Atlas. I mean, it's a big mech, it's a powerful mech, but you're so dependent upon the team to properly support you to do well. And the attitude of the Atlas is able to carry the day really does hold it back. You know, those two drawbacks. Most people don't know how to support an Atlas. There's numerous videos on it on YouTube if you look around, but it's frustrating that so few people try to do that kind of research or even understand. Players in general seem to just blindly do the same thing battle after battle after battle, and it's quite frustrating when you watch it. It's like you go that direction every time and the battle ends poorly for you, yet you keep going the same way. It reminds me of the old video game Lemmings, somehow. At any rate, if I were to be brutally honest about the Atlas, if you're looking for something that will play well, do well in battle, combat, good damage, good life, etc., I'd really recommend you go with like the Battlemaster. At a distance, it can be confused with a Shadowhawk. People don't act like you're supposed to carry the match. You're the big threat, put all fire into you. Being just 15% lighter, it has more maneuverability, agility, different weapon mount locations that you can better arsenal in some ways. Part of that is just personal opinion, personal preference, what works well for you. If you're looking for something that just strikes fear and terror into the hearts and is just fun, the Atlas does live up to those categories. Until next time, game on.